How you doing today? Fantasy Philosophy back, ready for some Week 9 discussion. On my right, Ant. On my left, Pete. And I'm Paul. And we're ready to give you some fantasy knowledge today. So, we had a pretty good week. I mean, it was a fun football. The games were a little shaky.
So it was all right.
I mean, the product of the NFL, man, this year is, I don't know what it is, but I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I feel like the past couple of years have been really exciting, and now it's just like, we're waiting for something to happen.
Too much politics going on. Too many people not watching for reasons. I don't know, but realistically, you're not missing much when you're not watching.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of blowouts.
I mean, you got Bethard versus Stanton in one game. Like, every time that game's on, nobody watches that game.
A lot of big names are hurt. I mean,
it's really this league. There's only like a couple dominant teams, and then the rest are just like mediocre. I feel like everyone's 4 and 5.
Playoffs will be very exciting though.
It will
when playoffs come around.
It's a close race, which I think is interesting, but it also takes away from the game because there's not like exciting.
Not too many.
Games.
Right.
It's kind of just like like 4 and 5. Everyone's 4 and 5.
But all we care about is the fantasy football side.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So, all right, well, let's jump into the fantasy side of things then. And, we've actually been continuing to play this really great game that Ant won last week. And this week, actually, Pete took it from us. We had a quick a game with some of our hosts and some other friends. We played a 10-team league on draft.com. And, Pete, our fantasy philosophy expert over here, took it this week. And, it was fun. We sat around, we drafted a team, and it was just like August came around again, and we were drafting like normal. So
I knew Goff was going to have a day.
He knew it. He honestly can't come up to me. He said, he's a Giants fan, by the way, as you can see with his shirt. And he said, this Giants defense will not do anything against the Rams. And he threw in Goff, and he got the W. So, that whole Rams offense was great. And we'll talk about it later, but be sure to check it out. Draft.com/fanphil. Check it out, and I'm sure you'll have a great time playing it. So let's jump into it. We got Week 9 recaps, and like we said, the week was a little bit lackluster, but we have all the highlights for you, all the fantasy highlights we're going to hit on. So let's start off here with the Falcons versus the Panthers. Obviously, Falcons have been lackluster offense as well, and the Panthers even didn't look too good. And they're 6-3 or whatever they are, and every time I watch them, I feel like they're a losing team. I don't know what's going on, but let's start with the Falcons rush game. Devonta Freeman, not a great game. Coleman had that touchdown, but other than that, not much. Are you guys worried about the Falcons running backs going forward?
I am. I mean, how can you? These guys are the people who carried you last season.
Right.
I mean, they were the center of the offense. Obviously, you had Julio Jones and Matt Ryan playing, out of their minds, but this is where it all started. Freeman would get the big power carries, go through the middle, and then Coleman comes in, and Coleman really, he had 6 touches. How do you give a guy with his caliber, his talent, and that one he gets one catch, takes it 19 yards for a touchdown?
Yeah, I mean he could be a top running back.
That's what I'm saying. On the other team, he could be the number one, right. And Freeman, of course, is the number one, and he deserves to be over Coleman because he's a great running back in this league. But he deserves more than 11 carries. It's ridiculous. They got to keep feeding them, and I don't know how they don't know that.
I mean, I think the offensive coordinator is different. The change over.
For sure, he doesn't.
Shanahan,
he's got to figure out what he's working with.
Right, and now the other side of it, you got Matt Ryan, who's been shaky. Right. Julio Jones has been shaky, but had another good game.
Yeah.
What do you think? Who's the real Julio Jones?
I mean, so I guess the question is Julio back? I would say he's like kind of back.
Kind of back?
I would say he would be totally back if he caught that damn touchdown and he dropped.
Man.
That was the worst play I've ever seen Julio Jones make. Seriously. I couldn't believe he dropped it. But if he caught that, his numbers would be skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And you know what? Had like a decent Julio day.
I think if you're a fantasy owner, you should almost account for that. Just
right.
say in your head he should have had that. His number should have been higher. And I think he's a no-brainer going forward. Right. I mean, you have to start him.
He is. You got to start him week in and week out. He's like I always say, and I'm going to say this a lot on this segment today. You got to start your starters. You have to.
Yep.
But you know what? I think the Falcons overall, their offense overall, is affecting that run game. because they're not clicking on all cylinders. They usually would use the run game to put out games.
Right.
Now they're just in games or like behind, and they really can't get that run game going. So
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the run game, Falcons have been shaky, and on the other side, the run game has been pretty good, and it's because mostly their quarterback. I mean, Jonathan Stewart is disgusting. He had, I think he finished with negative fantasy points this week.
those two
Terrible
fumbles,
game.
man.
McCaffrey, though, looking good. But what about Cam? I mean, I think he only threw for about 150 passing yards. But he had a pretty good fantasy day of about 20 points because of that rushing touchdown.
So Cam throws 13 completed passes
Right.
for 137 yards.
Okay.
That's it, passing wise. No
That's it.
touchdowns. And then you look at the carries. You think if you looked at just his carries, you think he was a running back.
Yeah.
9 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown.
It's a great stat line.
I mean, he did have that big 50-yard run, but he obviously they said don't expect him to be the red zone carrier. Don't expect him to take off in the red zone and run the ball. But obviously that's not what we're seeing.
Right.
He got a touchdown and he leaped over the line like Superman. He doesn't care about. He's not worried about how he's going to fall or whatever he's going to hurt. He's still doing what he's got to do, and
Right.
he's playing how
Now,
he should.
he's not worried about that, but Ann, are you worried about putting him in your lineup if he's just relying on his feet to get him the fantasy points?
I am because you know what? At this age that Cam is, you really can't rely on that run game. He's just too old. He's not the way he used to be. And he got a rushing touchdown and all those rushing yards. You can't rely on that as a quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't. It's not reliable production. However, based on what you have on your lineup, he might be your guy. Kind of have to start him week in and week out.
Yeah.
But he's also matchup based, I would say too. Like he's not matchup proof like a normal quarterback starter would be. So you got to tread lightly with Cam, but you got to roll with what you got. So
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think he's a. I mean, you got to start him, and if you have him, unless you got. I mean, there's not too many much better options than him, but
Right.
if he can get 8-9 rushes a game, he's going to put up those numbers. So,
Yeah.
real quick, let's just go with a quick answer here. Is Devin Funchess, who had, what did he have, 80 yards, 85 yards? Is he a good replacement for Kelvin Benjamin? Yes or no?
I would say yes. I would say yes, only because the run game isn't really there except for Cam Newton.
Right.
So they're going to have to pass the ball. And it's really just, I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be Funchess and McCaffrey that sees all the looks.
I
really
you're
think
right.
so too.
Yeah,
So
I
I think Funchess is the guy to go with.
Funchess, same type of receiver. He just basically slides right into that slot as Calvin was.
Definitely. So let's talk about another guy who's been kind of boom or bust this year. Colts versus Texans. You got two backup quarterbacks playing. Again, not the most interesting game, but you know what? We sat through it because we watch every single game every single Sunday, and that's why we're here to give you the knowledge about it.
Baby.
So the guy who had the breakout game in that game was T.Y. Hilton. He had 170 yards and that touchdown, and what did he have? 2 touchdowns, didn't he?
2
touchdowns. So, Pete, I know you once were an owner of him, and you got rid of him because you weren't, I mean, none of us were really confident about him, and I don't know if I still am, but
without luck.
going forward, are you starting him every week?
I bought him low because I knew he was playing San Francisco next week, and I knew he was going to give me a big game and then potentially be a sell-high candidate.
Right.
So, and that did happen, but he
Fantasy
scored.
football extra right here.
He scored 3 times. He's only 3 times this season. He scored over 5 fantasy points. And when he has scored over the 5 fantasy points, it's been 21 standard. It's been 21.3, 17.7, and 29.5.
Talk about
So
boom
he
or bust.
is literally boom or bust.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get in the end zone, if he doesn't get a bomb, he's nothing. But he did get the 9 targets on 5 catches. So maybe you could see Brissett really starting to feel comfortable in that offense because Jack Doyle also starting to get the confidence.
Definitely.
He knows who he likes and he knows who can make plays on that offense. So he's definitely getting comfortable. Not somebody you can really trust yet, but maybe somebody that really you have to have in your lineup just because of what he can do.
Right. I mean, I think it depends on your matchup. If you need a lot of points, you throw him in there.
Yeah.
Another guy that we argued about, boom or bust, finally did not score a touchdown this week, Will Fuller. But that offense as a whole kind of, it regressed a
Takes
lot.
a dip.
D-Hop still had his 90 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Miller didn't see as much work. Will Fuller didn't see as much work. And do you still trust that Houston offense to throw him in and week out into your lineup without Deshaun Watson?
All right, so D-Hop, he's a no-brainer. Starter. Start your starters. Again, I'm going to say it. I would just, honestly, the only person I could really rely on in that offense is Lamar Miller. Okay, so his production has been pretty much the same all throughout the season. And then when Deshaun Watson was getting hot, he was getting a little hotter.
Right.
But now he's back to like the production he was giving you in the beginning of the season, which was, RB1 low-end, RB1 worthy. So I think he again he's a starter. You start him. He's the only guy besides D-Hop that I could see starting in this in a fantasy lineup.
I think he definitely goes from that high RB1. He's putting up 20 points a week, and now he drops down. I think he can get you a solid 8 a week. Right. I think he's a great RB2. If you need that guy to put you up to 8 points, I think he's a solid guy.
I would watch though, tread lightly with Lamar Miller because he did have 11 carries to. Actually, he had 10 carries, and Deonta Foreman had 11. So maybe we're gonna see some Foreman in there too. He could be kind of a flyer. You could definitely start him as well. We'll see how that progresses. But like I said, Miller should
One
be
thing
the guy.
quick about Fuller is he still did have tied for the most targets that he's had this season. 8 targets on only 2 catches, but the 8 targets is big. I mean,
definitely
he's being looked at, but D-Hop with 16 targets. Obviously, Fuller's my guy, and it really hurt me to see him do what he did, but it's only really because of that quarterback and. I'm not ready to give up on Fuller yet. Yeah, maybe it's just me, but I'm just not ready.
I mean, he did get a couple of red zone targets, did he not?
He did, but you know what it is? He's still one play away from just being irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now he's
but
literally
that's the problem. Now
he's the boomer bust. I agree.
Now
he's really like a Tyreek Hill boomer bust type guy.
Definitely. All right, let's go to Bucs versus Saints. Obviously, a disgusting game from Jameis Winston. Doug Martin had a disgusting game. The Saints look good, though. Drew Brees had a great game. Kamara, awesome game. Even Ingram got in there. So, and after seeing that game, are you confident in starting any of those Bucs players? Because when Mike Evans is suspended now next week. Right. Doug Martin doesn't look good. Those tight ends did nothing last week. Yeah. And word around the league is the Bucs are just tanking and they're giving up. And if someone in your league is saying that about you and your team, that's pretty, that's noticeable, and it's sad because this offense, Hard Knocks, Jameis Winston, potential MVP, and now, now we see what's happening. So what do you think about them going forward?
Yeah, so the only real person I see, as of late at least, is Deshaun Jackson. And the only reason why is because Mike Evans takes a back seat. He sits. Ryan Fitzpatrick has to go somewhere with the ball. So, because Jameis is going to be out for a couple weeks. So I would say Deshaun Jackson might get you that production that you would want. Maybe replace him for a bye week or, something like that. But I would also say that Doug Martin takes a dip. He definitely takes a dip because, he wasn't producing last week. And he versus a Jets defense next week that only allowed 25 yards to LaShawn McCoy. Yeah. So, that whole offense is affected by the injuries and suspensions. I would kind of just steer away from them just for a little bit. Jackson, take a fly on, but other than that, yeah.
I know that you don't seem that you're very high on it. Yeah. Me and Pete talked a little bit earlier in our production meeting, and Pete, you got a different take on this, huh?
To be honest, I just made a trade for Jameis Winston before this week because I needed somebody to fill in for a couple bad matchups that my quarterback Marcus Mariota has, and obviously it was not the right decision. But for me, I'm dropping Winston, getting him off my team. I think he's irrelevant for the rest of the season. But I think that Fitzpatrick can come in here and actually make this offense better. Because we've seen Winston playing terrible with that banged up shoulder. And Fitz comes in here. He's ready to go. He's a veteran. And he likes to go deep to Deshaun. Obviously, Mike Evans is going to be back after next week. He's a big target. He'll still be fine. I really am not a big Doug Martin fan. I really haven't been. And, he's got a tough schedule. But besides that, I think this offense might take an upgrade with Winston being hurt.
All right, interesting take. So I was scrolling the Instagram world before this, and one of our fellow fantasy football shows gave a little blurb out on something they were going to talk about, and I'd like to talk about it too because I think it's interesting. Talking about Alvin Kamara, his big game, and one of their big questions was rest of season. Would you rather have Kamara or Kareem Hunt?
Wow.
And believe it or not, a lot of people were siding with Kamara just because of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, run the ball out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. I know this is a lot of hype, and the Bucs are a terrible defense. But would you agree with that or disagree with that?
Honestly, that's a bold statement. Yeah. I thought we were going to talk about this later on, but let's bring it up now. Kareem Hunt, I don't know, kind of on his way out. That offense isn't really clicking that much.
Man, I have to agree, man.
You know, the past couple weeks, it's been 11 from Kareem Hunt. Meanwhile, in the beginning of the season, he was like 20.
I think it's the entire offense.
It is.
Defense is terrible.
Right.
And now they have to force the ball to Tyreek Hill, force the ball down the field. You saw that late minute pick. But, all right, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves there.
Yeah.
But, we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah.
Pete, let's go to you. Let's talk a little bit about your home team, your New York Giants, letting up 51 points last week. That Rams offense, man. Robert Woods, Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, and hey, what do you know? Sammy Watkins for one catch, 60 yards and a touchdown. And what did I say last weekend? Dust him off. It was his time. He had his one catch.
Oh yeah.
So here's one thing I want to say. We had in my division in our league, I had a team who had Deshaun Watson, and I figured, he was kind of in the race, but as soon as he got hurt, terrible injury, not something I want to see, but as soon as he got hurt, I said, this team's done. So the guy picks up Goff, and he puts up Deshaun Watson numbers, and we're this guy's going over 100
He didn't lose anything.
Again.
He's right back
He's
where
right
he was.
back where he was. And it's just ridiculous because Goff, Woods, 2 touchdowns and 70 yards?
Woods, to be fair, Woods, he's been consistent.
I got to be honest.
He has been.
You know what I think the Giants are? Usually in past years, the Browns just have a terrible defense. This year, the Browns actually have a pretty good defense, and the Giants, terrible. I think the Giants are becoming the Browns, and the Browns are becoming. The Browns aren't really becoming the Giants because they don't really win at all.
All right,
but
let me ask you a question.
That defense, you could play anybody.
Would you rather be a Giants fan for the rest of the year or a Bucks fan for the rest of the year? I mean, who like these two teams are just.
I gotta go with my Giants just because I respect the hell out of Eli Manning. He's out there giving it his all with this. Ben McAdoo, you're an idiot, man. Ben McAdoo needs to get out of that whole. Look
at his haircut. He thinks he's from the 70s with his greaser haircut.
And Evan Ingram, I'll take you on my team. Eli, you're shaky, matchup play, but that rest of that offense, the defense, you got Pro Bowlers on that defense, and you can play anybody against them.
Before we passed the Giants offense, what about Orleans Darkwood? Because although the game script was not in his favor, he did still have a pretty good game.
16 carries, 71 yards.
He got the volume.
You know what it is? That's a guy who stepped up. Again, the higher-ups in the Giants, they think Paul Perkins is the guy there? Are you kidding me? He's terrible. And Darkwa steps up and takes that starting job, and he's running with it. I like Darkwa.
I like Darkwa too. He gets the most of his opportunity. He exploded against Denver, and now he continues to go. I actually like him for the rest of the season. If they have a good matchup, I think he's a great player. I really do.
They get the Niners next week,
and there you go.
Maybe they'll pull one out of there. You know what?
Yeah, maybe they will. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to let's see here, Seattle versus Washington. All right. I had to skip past some games. Baltimore versus Tennessee, we don't really have to talk about. Alex Collins, that's pretty much
Told you to sell him.
I like him. I still like him.
You like him?
Don't sell him. I like him. This kid is young. He's got sick moves. They're definitely going to use him a lot more.
One thing quick about the Ravens.
Collins.
Macklin, 9 targets, 8 catches, 98 yards. He's a good play.
Wow. All right, keep an eye on Macklin going forward. All right, I really want to get into the Seattle versus Washington game. Every week it seems like we're spending so much time talking about Seattle because guess what? They have one of the most pass-happy offenses in the league, and they're exciting to watch. I have to be honest.
Yep.
They're great to watch.
Say the same about their run game.
Well, yeah, their run game is terrible, and that's actually where I wanted to go here.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the pass game, but first, the Seattle Seahawks came into that game saying, we want to focus on the run game. We're going to give all our carries to Eddie Lacy. We're going to let him run the ball. He gets 6 carries for 20 yards, gets hurt. He's out of the game.
Yeah.
Rawls comes in. Although he did catch a couple balls, which is not what we're talking about, but he had 9 carries for 39 yards. Again, terrible. You can't trust this Seattle rush game, and I think that's why. And before we even talk about it, you're not starting anyone going forward. Would you ever start a Seattle running back going forward?
Maybe.
Oh, God.
Maybe. Okay, so you still got bye weeks. And the running back position's thin. Okay?
All right.
So, all right, hear me out on this. If Lacy misses some time, which I don't think he will, but Rawls actually looked pretty good. Okay, 9 rush for 39 yards. You don't think that's good? That's close to 4 yards a carry, though.
But he did have a lot of catches out of the backfield.
He did have a lot of catches out of the backfield. Yeah, he looked pretty good. He looked explosive.
Right.
Again, though, Washington's D, probably not the best. They're pretty good against the pass.
Yeah.
But other than that, probably not the best against the run.
To be honest, I think Lacy is probably like the worst candidate on that team to give the ball to. I mean, I respect Lacey,
that's bold.
but Rawls is quicker, especially McKissick. He's a very good, talented running back that just doesn't get the volume. I mean, if you're going to give the bulk of the carries to somebody, why is it Lacey? I mean, he's very slow. I would expect him to be maybe the goal line back, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, they're really missing Chris Carson. I was very excited about him
Me
this
too,
year.
man.
And, they're gone. But let's move over to the passing game. Russell Wilson, amazing game. I mean, this guy, he just does whatever he has to do to get those points. And
He's like a magician.
And
man.
I love watching them the pass catchers. You got Jimmy Graham, Tyler Lockett, Paul Richardson, and Doug Baldwin, who had 7 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And if you were happy with that stat line, listen to his next 3 matchups. He's got Arizona, Atlanta, and San Francisco. Just wait. The Seattle passing offense will light these teams up. And if you have, I think, anyone on that Seattle offense, get ready. You're getting a lot of points.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you got Russell in one of your leagues.
Oh, yeah.
How excited are you for those next 3 matchups?
I'm very excited. I think Russell, he shines at this time in the season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they couldn't pull the win out in Washington. But I think that gives Russell and that offense more motivation because now they're competing for that first place position with the LA Rams. So I think Russell Wilson's going to be on fire.
Right?
I really think so. Yeah.
All right, Pete. Let's talk really quick about Washington. I mean, not too many bright spots. Josh Doxson looked pretty good with that 1 catch, but other than that, not too much. 2 touchdowns for Rob Kelly. Is that a fluke?
You know what? 14 carries on 18 yards. Obviously, he's a guy who's touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get in the end zone, he's got 1.4 yards. I mean, 1.4 points. Yeah, or 1.8. But he's definitely a goal line back. So the Washington offense, they look all right. I mean, there's somebody who can get in the red zone. So if you're really struggling, bye weeks, I mean, he's got a tough schedule. The Vikings next week, but even the Seattle defense is very good against the run. But he still punches 2 in. He's definitely the goal line back. So touchdown dependent.
I think if I'm an owner of anyone on Washington, I'm not playing him next week unless it's the tight end position because that's the only guy he throws to. I mean, Vernon Davis had, I don't know what he had, but he looked good. Chris Thompson. Right. All right.
Right.
You're right.
Right. That's about it though. Yeah. Exactly. The wide receivers really not doing much. Josh Doxson is on the rise, but other than that, you got
definitely someone to hold on to. I think Josh Doxson. Keep him.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, he's definitely a guy that you want to have. I would rather have him than like Terrell Pryor on my team.
I wouldn't. Pryor shouldn't be on a team.
Yeah, he shouldn't be on the team, which is disappointing. But
right.
Another day for that. All right, Dallas versus Kansas City. Hunt versus Zeke.
Both down.
It's not what it should have been.
Both thumbs down. I mean, Zeke had a good game. Hunt, decent game, 6 points. Really not the production you're expecting from a Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Especially against the Dallas defense.
Right, I know. That's a pretty weak defense against the run. But I'm going to say they're both going downhill because Hunt, he's just not looking the same. He's really not. And Zeke, the suspension's going to kick in soon.
I mean, it is looming.
Even if it's going to be reduced, he's still going to be gone. Those who are hoping for the playoffs with Zeke, it might be a little tough, but I really think that he and Hunt aren't reliable guys as of late or aren't going to be late. I mean, Zeke is amazing though when he's on the field.
When Zeke plays, you got to play him, obviously. Peter, let's go to the Dallas side of the ball. I know you're a big fan of Des Bryant. How about Terrence Williams? Was that a fluke of a game? Or, I mean, he did look very good in that game.
There's always that second guy, opposite of Dez, who it's either Cole Beasley, and actually it was Cole Beasley and Williams. But, Dez got banged up. That was late in the game. But Marcus Peters maybe shutting down Dez a little bit. I mean, he still got 77 yards. So maybe Dak looking towards his other options, but Williams is a good guy. I mean, he's got talent. He's somebody who could be really good on a different team, maybe as a number 1 wideout. But Cole Beasley, great slot receiver. I mean, they're all weapons. It's just Dak kind of picks and chooses when he really wants to get them going. So it's hard to see. It's hard to see when to put them in and plug them in. Maybe against good matchups, they're a good filler in for a bye or something.
Yeah, I mean, on that Dallas offense, Dak and Zeke, if he's in, should always be in your lineups. I think Dak is the top 5 quarterback going forward. Mm-hmm. All right, real quick with the San Francisco and Arizona game. I don't want to touch on too much, but is AP an RB1 the rest of the way?
I don't know about RB1. I would say RB2. He's definitely matchup based. There was an easy matchup against San Fran. So, they were up. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try and close games out. If they don't have that upper hand, like against Seattle next week, I don't think he's going to get more than 50 yards rushing.
What do you think, Pete?
I think he definitely gets the volume. 37 carries against the 49ers is out of this world. But
Right.
either way, Drew Stanton at quarterback, he's going to get the volume. He's probably going to get 20-plus carries a game. So for me, a low RB1. So just because of the volume, and we know AP, he's probably going to get in the end zone, and
Right.
he gets the yardage. He's a stud.
All right, let's move on to the Sunday night game. We had Oakland versus Miami. We had one of the biggest surprises, Jared Cook with 130 yards.
Yeah.
Is he legit going forward, or is that kind of a fluke?
I think he is. He's getting his targets. He's a good start, especially in bye week, if you need a bye week fill. But yeah, he's top 10 in targets, receptions, and yards at tight end position.
It's pretty good.
You got to
The
roll
way
the
the tight
dice
end
with tight
position
ends.
is, he's somebody that you could be playing.
Exactly.
Week in and week out.
So I would go with Jared
All right,
Cook. If
Pete,
you don't have anyone else.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. Oh, well, first, Marshawn Lynch had 2 touchdowns, 60 yards. He again, he's another touchdown dependent guy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but on the other side of the ball, I really want to talk about Kenny and Drake versus Damian Williams. They both had decent games, around 10 fantasy points each. If you had to start one next week, who would you start?
I mean, really, it's a complete split. Both have, Drake has 2 more carries than Williams, but they have both 6 catches. So you really don't know who's the passing back, who's the running back.
Right.
You don't really know. So at this point, I would just say Drake just because he looks better. If you watch the game, he just looks better.
Eye test.
Williams is kind of maybe like a bigger guy. Maybe the goal line back, which is kind of taken away from Drake. But yeah, the eye test says Drake, so I'd roll with Drake if I had to pick.
And what about you?
Yeah, I said the same thing. Literally a complete split. But I would have to agree. Drake, based on the eye test, he looks good. He's involved in the passing and run game. I feel like Williams is more of the pass catching back. So I would roll with Drake. But I think it's just like the Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman, but on like a very lower, much lower scale. So yeah, I would say Drake though.
All right, last thing before we close out here.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare our viewers right now, but after he plays Carolina, Tampa Bay, and New England, last week against Oakland, 311 yards and 3 touchdowns, would you ever think about streaming Jay Cutler with those easy matchups?
Absolutely not. I do not want Jay Cutler on my team. He belongs on the waiver wire. Everybody's been doing it against Oakland. The Patriots have been a better defense of late. And, I mean, really, who'd you say he was playing?
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay, if you really need to, you got a guy in a bye or a guy hurt, maybe he's a good fill-in. But besides that, no, absolutely not.
I would say yes. I really would say yes. I know it's kind of scary, but he's got good weapons. He's got Parker. He's got Jarvis. He's got Stills, upcoming guys.
Yeah.
I really like the receiving core he's around, and with those week matchups, sure, why not? If you have a bye week, but I think bye weeks end week 11.
Yeah.
But if you're starting like someone like Goff and doesn't have the matchup, maybe go
take
with
a shot.
him. Maybe take a shot. Especially because you have so many injuries in the NFL these days. So why not?
Why not? So there you have it. Fantasy Philosophy Week 9 recap. And Pete, good job today. I really liked your stat lines. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So look, you're sure all right.
All right, thanks.
Could be better.
I'll take it.
Could be-
All right, I'll take it.
So
Got high expectations.
check us out every Monday. We'll be doing a recap. And look out for our Beast or Bust Week 9 video. It's one of our favorite segments. We'll have Kev and Mike come out here and have a great showing. But that's it. Check us out on Twitter at FNTSY Philosophy and follow us on YouTube. We got videos coming out every single week. Check you next time.